Welcome back.
Hello.
Thanks for doing this, Cam.
Thank you. Did you hear about the pirate movie?
Which one?
It was rated R.
Is it in the theaters?
I thought I'd start.
So
I thought I'd hit you with that joke right now.
yeah, happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
So what's a pirate's favorite letter?
Well, I'm gonna say R.
You'd think it's R, but a pirate's heart is with a C.
Oh, that's so bad.
I mean, we're dads, right? So we can get away with it. Bad dad jokes.
Yes, that's right.
So, Honorable Mayor Cam Guthrie, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Honorable Rob. Yes.
Honorable Pirate Rob.
Yes. Thank you very much.
No, seriously, it's a absolute honor to have you do this. So thank you for doing
Thank you. Yeah, this is great. I'm looking forward to
it.
it.
I'm gonna put my sword here back.
Yes.
Don't need to drive around with
Put your sword in in your carry-on luggage.
Yeah, there it is. Okay, so let's do this. So I know, lots of people around here, and especially the people who are watching this, will probably know you.
Okay, yeah.
But maybe they don't necessarily know your backstory. So can you give people a little introduction in terms of the story of Cam and where you've come from and what you're up to these days?
Sure. Well, yeah, quick history. My family's been in town since 1919.
Wow.
It's almost 100 years.
Yep.
And there's two factions of Guthries in town.
It really makes me question when I say I'm from Guelph, because I've only been here like 12 years. So I don't think I can say that anymore.
It feels like you've been here longer, my friend. So there was sort of the Guthrie lawyer politician side, and then there was the Guthrie bakery side. And so I'm from the Guthrie bakery side. So when my great-grandfather arrived here, they started Guthrie's Bakery on Quebec Street.
Okay, cool.
Downtown.
Yeah.
And then they had a few stores. They had a couple in Guelph, Dundas, Cambridge, some other places. And then when the Guthrie family got out of baking,
right,
my grandfather got into insurance. And it was a really good kind of journey for him, because he did really well in insurance because everyone knew him. Gordon Guthrie was his name. He did everyone's wedding cakes, everyone's birthday cakes. Right. So when it came to insurance, it was like a no-brainer. Everyone went to my grandpa for insurance in town. So still to this day, people will say, "Oh, I remember the Guthrie Bakery," or "Oh, I remember your grandpa with insurance." Almost every week someone says that.
That's cool.
So we have some really deep roots here in town, and I followed my grandfather's footsteps and got into insurance.
Yeah.
And so I was an insurance broker for 16 years, and then I decided to run for mayor in 2014.
And then I decided to run for mayor.
Yeah, and here I am.
That's amazing.
And that's our interview, folks. Have a good day.
Yeah, happy Halloween. We're out.
Yeah. I was a part of volunteering with a lot of places in town too. Crime Stoppers for a while. Michael House here in town.
Yeah, for sure.
It helps out.
Super active involved.
And so I was involved in that. I did run, and I won. Well, sorry, I ran for council in 2006 for the first time ever getting into politics, and I actually lost that election. I lost that election by a couple hundred votes, I think it was.
Crazy.
And then in 2010, I ran for city council again, and I won. So in Guelph, though, city council is considered a part-time job.
Right.
And so I was still an insurance broker full-time, and then doing the city councilor thing as well, part-time.
Right. Yeah, I was going to say that seems kind of insane.
Yeah. And so then in 2014, I decided to run for mayor, which was good because I wanted to have one focus. It was tough, actually. I'll be open about it. It's tough as a young family with kids, and you're trying to run the insurance, and you're trying to help with the city. And so I needed to have one challenge, one focus. And so running for mayor was sort of that nice challenge to do, and here I am.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
And I mean, from my perspective, you've been doing an amazing job.
Well, thank you.
It's really refreshing to have somebody kind of at the helm of a city that's so candid.
Thank you.
And straightforward. And I love the way you approach not town hall meetings, but anytime you're on a podium and we're asking questions, and people ask you, just shoot them straight.
I do, and I've always been that way, because it's always bothered me when I hear politicians not be straight with people.
Right.
It's always bothered me.
Awesome.
And so I have always been like, you got to ask me a closed-ended question, which means a yes or no answer, basically. Yeah. I'm going to give you the answer. And I'm going to say sorry when I need to say sorry, and I'm going to cheer when I need to cheer. And it's, that's the way I am. And my wife always said, if you change, like if you become, the mayor and you change in any way, I don't want you running again. And I said, oh, that's a fair comment, right?
Yeah.
So, I am what I am.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
The first response I saw you was at the Delta, and someone asked you a question, and you responded, "You're probably not going to like my answer, but here it is."
Oh, okay.
It was super straight. So I really appreciate
Thank
that.
you. Yeah.
So, kind of getting into this, then, coming from a background of business, and then moving into, a public office setting.
Yep.
There's definitively, from my experience, some perspective that municipal organizations move a little bit slower than, say, the private sector.
Yep.
So what was it like for you adjusting from a business setting into a government setting when it came to like the pace of leadership and change?
Yeah, it was and can still be frustrating. But I've learned to understand why there is a little bit of a slower pace. That doesn't mean we should accept that slower pace all the time. But when you are in the public realm, and you have to be accountable for other people's money, you would want the processes to be a little bit slower, if I could say that word, so that because of transparency, public process, engagement with people, we're not a dictatorship. We're not council and myself. We're not. Well, thanks for letting us, voting council and myself in, and see you in 4 years. We're just going to do everything now, and with no public engagement, no transparency, no accountability. So those steps and those processes take time, and so that's the positive side of really at every level of government, but I would say the municipal level of government is the most transparent, for sure.
Yeah.
Sounds
like there's a voice of experience there.
Well, it's just like we do everything out in the open. We're the one level of government. Everything is done as best as we can out in the open. And, we have to balance our books every year. We can't run deficits. It's illegal for cities to run deficits in Ontario.
Crazy.
So it's, we really do everything, as I said, as much in the open as possible to be transparent and accountable back to the public that we're using their money. So I think there's reasons why then the process is a little bit slower. But as I said at the beginning, it doesn't mean we should just say, oh, that's why, and then just not try to work on it. If there's ways we can work on the process, especially around business, permitting or business development, economic development, things like that, a little bit quicker, then we should be looking at that.
Yeah, that's
for
cool.
Sure. And often, politicians will often say, and I've said it too, the government should run more like a business, and I think it should in some ways, except for, when about the transparency and accountability engagement part, that needs to stay, because sometimes in the private sector, as the boss, and you would maybe know this, you can say, well, I'm changing course now, and then everyone just says, oh, okay, well, the boss said we're changing course, so that's what we're doing. It doesn't work that way.
And that's not even necessarily effective either.
No, it can't.
Even in an organizational setting, right?
Correct.
So when it comes to something you're passionate about, and leading change inside the organization of, the corporation of the city of Guelph, what kind of leadership lessons have you learned over the last couple of years that have helped you kind of navigate this, it's a large ship, right? I mean, you go from a 9.5 horsepower, you can turn on a dime to the equivalent of, a Princess cruise ship. It's just so big. Yeah. I don't want to say the Titanic because it's a horrible analogy.
Don't say that one. Yeah. Cruise ship is fine.
Cruise ship,
So it is a big ship to try to turn around, and we are doing a good job at that. I would say that relationships is probably the biggest answer, the biggest theme I could say. You can't, if you don't have the foundational relationships down, and that's relationships both internally with staff and with council, and if you don't have the relationships in a good standing externally with your external stakeholders, you're not going to get far. You're not going to get far. So I think relationships is the foundational thing that I got into City Hall to try to correct. And then from there, it makes things easier when big decisions come up. I would also say that I've learned to pick the hills to die on. That doesn't mean I don't stand up for my principles or my values, but there are times when you need to compromise. You need to show that you're willing to shift a little bit based on new information that might come to you,
right?
And not be so stuck in your ways that you're not willing to, well, as I said, to compromise.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Bit, right?
It's kind of like you give a little, and get a little, right?
Yep.
So when it comes to relationships,
yep,
and this is a common theme I hear with regard to a lot of leaders when it comes to creating change and leading an organization. What has been some of the things that you've done around the how of building those relationships? Well,
so internally, it's really trying to get to know a lot of the staff. They are the frontline staff people that directly interact, especially with our citizens and businesses in the city. So, getting to know them, and in a meaningful and authentic way too. Getting to know because they're the ones talking to the citizens, and I want to hear what's going on. What's the pulse of the city from them? Externally, we had this is just historical fact. We had a really bad fractured relationship with the county of Wellington, and not to get too far into the weeds here.
No, that's cool.
But the county of Wellington, which surrounds Guelph,
in a very weird way.
Yeah, they are provincially mandated to do all of our social services work within Guelph. They're the ones that, so the taxpayers of Guelph pay about $20 million a year to them.
Right.
And then they distribute the money to a daycare, to homes, things of social service nature. And so 10 years ago, the mayor and council of the day decided to get off of what's called the Social Services Committee because there was a lot of bad relationships happening.
Right.
And so one of the goals I had as mayor was to try to build that relationship back. And I'm actually really proud of the fact that we brought forward a policy or a report, to council, and they unanimously approved us getting back together with the county, with the Social Services Committee. So they appointed me to go back onto the Social Services Committee, and that relationship now with the county has become really, really good. Yeah. And when you're handing over $20 million a year, you kind of want a seat at the table.
Yeah, sure.
To be able to find out what's going on, interact, help, guide, ask questions, whatever.
Yeah.
And so it's been really, really good. And that's there's actually been a book written about the relationship between the city of Guelph and the county. That's
amazing.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
So it's been not my part,
sure,
but the bad part.
Oh, the bad part.
Yeah. Maybe there'll be a second edition.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But
so what's the number one thing from your perspective that someone needs to do to build a relationship with somebody else?
So I've always learned you got to find out a lot of the history in regards to the other person or the other stakeholder that you're trying to talk to. So I think if you find out some of the points in people's lives of both the positive and the negative, it can be, if you step back, you can start to understand where they're coming from when they talk, when they speak, when they try to make decisions, when they when they're trying to interact with you to try to maybe guide you in one way.
Right.
You can understand where they're coming from because you understand their history.
Right.
And so I did in council, actually, we did a program called the leadership contract. And part of that leadership contract is actually mapping out the spike points in your life of both the positives and the negatives, and then sharing that with somebody.
Very cool.
And I was able to share with, another colleague, some of the ups and downs in my life and how they influenced me. And I remember the other person saying to me after I explained it to them on my timeline, they were like, oh, well, maybe now I kind of understand why you have these principles or you have these values.
Yeah,
and
that's
then
cool.
right back at it to the other people in the room, right? And I thought that was really key about finding out people's history, and you start to understand where people are coming from, and then you have the ability to give those people maybe a little bit of grace,
Cool.
right? You don't judge them as quickly because now you understand them at a deeper level of where they're coming from.
That's a really cool concept.
Yeah.
And I've heard that actually, that exercise works well in lots of places. You know, kind of creates this sense of vulnerability.
Yep.
And then
Yep.
trust is built a lot
Yep.
there.
That's right.
So did
Yep.
you feel kind of a little vulnerable?
Oh yeah,
going through that
yeah,
exercise?
I did. But as you just said, I would agree with you. I don't need to make the point go longer. When you have that trust, it is a lot easier in life, not just in politics, but in life. And it's hard sometimes for people to trust politicians, right? So
there's a perception there, I guess.
Yeah, so it's I would agree with you 100% that the trust issue. There's a line that I was taught a long time ago. I think everyone kind of knows it. It takes a lifetime to earn trust and a second to lose it.
Isn't that the truth?
Yeah, it is.
Oh,
It
man.
is a big time truth, and it's always important not to try to lose that trust, because then you have to start rebuilding it all over again.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Someone else mentioned a similar concept that you build trust in nickels and dimes and you lose trust in dollars. And
Yep.
and
Sure.
in toonies.
Yeah.
Canadian must have said.
Yeah. No pennies.
Yeah, no pennies.
Those are gone.
Okay, so then shifting gears a little bit, comes to social media, and doing something like this is just kind of like one little bit of all the things that you do on social.
Yes.
You're probably one of the most visible you're the most visible politician I've ever seen on social, and you really bring it home. Like you're not separating. You don't have like a business page. It's Cam Guthrie.
Yeah, I own the Twitter handle, Mayor Guthrie.
Right.
But I decided right away not to use it. People voted for me because I'm Cam Guthrie.
Right.
And so
that's really
that you get the whole package.
And it is a wonderful package. If you didn't know, Cam's actually dressed as the sexiest mayor in the world. For Halloween.
That's right. Yeah, it took me so long to get ready. So yeah, you get the husband, you get the father, you get I try to
the musician.
The musician. I try to make people laugh. I try to make people have fun, and you get me, and so I will in one thing answer directly in regards to why isn't the grass cut in this park issue, and the second thing might be a story about something that went weird that day or whatever.
Yeah.
Right? So I think that comes back to that vulnerability part and the relationship building part. I think when people get to start to know someone at a deeper level than just ribbon cutting,
Right.
they understand, I think, where they're coming from a little bit more in the decisions that are being made.
So for some people, I've heard a lot of feedback around when is it too much? When do you expose yourself too much? And are you putting yourself out there too much? Not you, but just generally speaking when it comes to social media.
Mm-hmm.
And so has there been any spots where you've been like, ooh, maybe I really need to pull back on this a little bit, or maybe it's getting a little bit too personal?
Yeah, I don't think it's ever gotten too personal. I'm sure somebody's looking back 8 years and have screenshotted something.
Right, sure.
They'll attack me.
This was personal.
Yeah. But I did actually make I don't know if you saw it, but I did make a pretty long post on my personal Facebook page about a week ago.
I did see it.
Oh, did you see it?
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
all right.
I thought it was really well written.
Well, thank you. I said in my post that imagine over 27,000 people asking you questions at the same time about 50 different things at the same time, and
it's like, oh man.
and so that's exactly what's happened. I have over 27,000 people following me on my social media stuff, which is great, but it's me. Like, I don't have staff that do any of this. It's me. Yeah. And so imagine there's never an off button. You're just always on, and you're always trying to respond to people. And so finally I had to kind of put a little bit of a boundary in place and just say, look, if you wanna engage with me or get an opinion or get a question answered and stuff like that, it's great. I want you to do that, but not on my personal Facebook page. Do it on my mayor page or do it through formal channels through the mayor's office and stuff like that. And
don't
you know
expect a 1 hour turnaround time.
Yeah. It's and it's not. And maybe that is a bit too vulnerable, because I can see, a competitor saying, "See, he doesn't want to engage with people."
Sure.
But I think being vulnerable that way, as that post has been viewed so many times now, and lots of likes and thumbs up.
Oh yeah, there's a ton of comments on it.
Yeah, and they're all really positive, and it's good. I think people understand. They're like, "Hey, yeah, this guy's a dad. This guy's a husband.
Yeah,
and I need to also be careful with my family too, right? So I don't want my family to be affected because I'm trying to fix a pothole somewhere." I know that's pretty blunt, but
no, it's the truth.
It's the truth. It's right? The truth. So I gotta. When my life is coming to an end, I don't want to have regrets, and I don't want. I want them to be. I want to be focused on family too, right? So.
No, that's awesome. Seriously, that's
you get what I'm saying.
Absolutely, that's really cool. So I think we're like a year away from an election.
We are.
Is that right?
Yeah, I can't believe how fast it's come. So yeah, October next year.
So one of the questions I had was...
It's under a year. I think it's...
Yeah, I think you said 364 days, like a week and a half ago.
I think it's the 22nd.
Something like that.
Yes, I think it's October 22nd. I should know the date.
But that's my... Yeah. So I'm grabbing, I'm like, well, what else could you really do to run for for an election? Like, you're campaigning, like, every day, and just in the way that you run the show.
Well, it's funny, I'm not, which is weird. So I've been accused of that a little bit. Although, do you know Hurricane Hazel?
Yeah. Back in the day, Mississauga.
Mississauga, right?
Yeah.
She was asked once. I mean, she ran for mayor.
Oh,
forever,
Hazel,
right?
the person. Yeah, Hazel.
She was asked once, "When do you start campaigning?" And I remember she answered, "The day after the last election."
Right.
Yeah. So I've been accused of kind of doing some of this similar type of stuff, but in a leadership type of a role, you sometimes have to make some really unpopular decisions that are, frankly, wouldn't be a campaign material.
Right.
But you have to. But you have to do it.
Right.
Because you have to do it. It's for the city. It's not for you. It's not for a small minority of people. It's for everybody. And so you got to make some tough calls. And so I actually am like. I'm not campaigning right now at all. First of all, you're not legally allowed to do it until May of next year.
Okay, yeah.
Like accepting money and advertising and stuff like that. So you gotta wait till May to officially declare. But some people could come out and say, "I want to run,"
right.
But they can't really do anything right now. I'm just focused on the city. Because we got some big stuff going on, big stuff going on right now.
So let's take it. Let's go. Give us a little.
One
or two things. Nothing crazy.
Well, probably the biggest focus that I've had, and it comes back to your question about business, is I wanted to review all of our assets in the city that the city owns, which really the citizens own, right?
Yep.
And make sure that they're producing the best value and the best outcomes for everyone in the city. So we reviewed, the city owns a railway line, Guelph Junction Railway. We've been reviewing that. We reviewed the district energy systems that were in our city. We've also reviewed all of our downtown land and property that we own. And now we had an announcement a couple weeks ago where we reviewed Guelph Hydro. And we're looking to merge Guelph Hydro with another municipally owned entity called Electra.
Yep.
And so that final decision comes to council in December, just after our budget. So we have both budget coming up in December, and we have the merger with Electra coming up in December as well. I mean, these are
huge.
Well, I mean, we're talking. This is over 100 years in the making here for the Electra merger. So these are huge decisions. But again, it comes back to getting, just as I said, relationships is sort of a foundational thing for me. So is the state of our house. Like, get our house in order.
Yeah.
And reviewing those assets from a business lens. has really been good for the city too, and that's why we're making these decisions about all of the assets that we own, including Guelph Hydro.
Cool.
Yeah. So, service reviews as well. Oh, sorry, can I add one more?
Yeah, go.
So service reviews is another thing that I ran on that, and I was really happy that council unanimously approved moving to a framework of doing service reviews.
What does that mean?
Well, like in business, you have a process or you have a service that you offer. You want to review it every now and then. Are you doing it right?
Is everybody doing it the same way?
Should we be doing it better? Should we be doing it at all? These types of questions need to be asked. And when it comes to the city, in any city, it sometimes is very difficult to be willing to basically, pull the veil back and take a look at what you're doing. And so we had our first service review ever done we did our first one on waste and garbage collection.
When you say ever, you mean during your office?
Yeah.
Or during, ever in the city history?
In this framework, the policy framework that the council approved, this is the first.
Cool.
Yeah, this is the first.
Awesome.
And so we decided to look at our waste system, garbage, and I mean every facet of it. And it came back that 5 out of the 6 sort of categories within that department are running tippity top. There's some efficiencies that can be found in it found, but nothing out of whack.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
But one out of 6 is losing $2.5 million a year. And it never would have been found if we hadn't started those service reviews.
Awesome.
And so now we have to tackle that issue.
Cool.
Right? We've exposed it. Now we have to tackle it. So probably February, March next year is when staff will come back to council with a recommendation based on what we should do. And they're tackling that issue right now. And so, again, getting into the weeds a little bit is sometimes necessary so that you can make things better, because we're using other people's money.
That's cool.
And that's the best way to serve the public, is to spend and use their money wisely. And so when I find issues that aren't working very well, then it's incumbent upon us to fix it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And it's, I was just saying, knowing the harsh, brutal reality of the situation allows you to take where you are to where you want to go, and that's really good to great.
Well, we reviewed. Thank you. Nice. Don't take that hat off though. As I said, we reviewed our assets, and District Energy was one of them, and this is public knowledge. It was a complete waste.
It's not making any money.
It's not only not making any money, it's having 0 environmental impact.
Whoa.
And $17 million was spent on it.
Yeah, and there was
a lot of money being thrown at this to look green, and it wasn't right. It wasn't implemented right. District energy in itself is a good thing.
Yeah,
it just wasn't implemented right. So exposing this stuff helps us learn so that we don't make mistakes like this in the future for the citizens and the businesses of the city. And so that's kind of a lot of the stuff I've been doing and council has been doing the last 3 years.
That's awesome. Seriously, that's super cool. So then one kind of last thing, and then we'll kind of wrap it up.
Sure.
In terms of making Guelph business friendly.
Oh, yeah.
There was a write-up in the Globe and Mail, I think, a couple of years ago about the entrepreneurial ecosystem that exists.
Yep.
The public press that we're getting about Guelph being a great place, not only for business, but for living.
Yes.
It just seems like Guelph's kind of showing up on the map.
Yeah, we should be all very proud, and it's not a me thing, it's not a council thing, it's an everybody thing, and it's this is a long story, but I'm going to try to make it easier. Guelph, unfortunately, was known in the past as a difficult place to do business. I'll just be straight with you. And in fact, there was a name for it. It was called the Guelph Factor. And I didn't come up with that name. That name was actually in a consultant's report for the city when the consultant went out and talked to lots of stakeholders about what was going on in the city. And that report happened in the past term of council. I wasn't the mayor, but it got leaked by a staff person in City Hall because they were so upset as well with how the city was being viewed. Right. And they want to change.
Yeah.
And that's, by the way, not the right way to do it, but that's how it happened.
What happened. Yeah.
And so one of the things that, I ran on was we have to change this perception of our city, because we are a great city. We have a lot going for us. We have to get those strengths, promote them. We have to tell our stories better about what's going on here. And then we have to look at our processes. And so what we've done over the last several years is an integrated operational review, another review about all of our processes. And we've just finished, I think, number 30 on changing things within the city about processes, development process, permitting, our culture, customer service to the business community. And it's paying off. It's really, really paying off. And our new deputy CAO, who's in charge of sort of that department, his name is Scott Stewart, he said it's time for us to start saying, how do we get to yes?
Cool.
Instead of people coming in and saying, well, no, you can't do that. It's like, how can we get you to yes? Cool. And it's a different mindset. And that's exactly what we need in this city. And so it's working, and we are getting those accolades, as you said, like third best city in Canada to raise a family, fourth best city to start a business, lowest unemployment rate. I mean, I could just keep kind of going through all the stats.
No, it's huge.
But it is really, really amazing to see our city really do well. We've joined in now with Toronto Global in the region for the Amazon bid and things like that. Like we're a big player now. We're a big player, and we have to continue that course. We cannot go back to the way it used to be at all.
Cheers, man.
Yeah, that's right.
To that. I'll drink to that.
That's right. By the way, as we've been sitting here, did you just notice what's outside? Snow.
It's happening. It is happening.
That's my fault. It's the mayor's fault, right?
Yeah, you got broad shoulders.
Yeah, it's snowing today. It's the mayor's fault.
It's the mayor's fault. So one last piece then. If there's something you could go back to yourself and say 20 years ago that you wish you knew then that you know now, what would it be?
Yeah, I think I would just not. I think I would say something that I said to you already, which is about the hills to die on. I think I just as you mature in life, you start realizing what's important and what's not. And again, that doesn't mean you give up on your principles or your values.
No, I hear you, man.
But I think there's just some things that, for your own well-being and others around you, you should just kind of let some things go. And that includes not revenge, that's not the word I'm looking for, but extending grace to people, forgiving people. It actually helps you out more than holding a grudge. That's what I was looking for.
Yeah.
Holding grudges against people too. I mean,
it's toxic, right?
It's toxic. Thank you. Yeah, it's really good that you said that. And that speaks to the relationship part, right? How can you create relationships with people if you have these grudges or talking behind people's back or things like that? So, I think I would just be quicker to forgive and quicker to forget and not try to die on so many hills.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for doing this.
Thank you.
Seriously, it was a pleasure.
Yeah. Awesome.
Thanks, guys. All right.
Make sure you wear that hat the rest of the day.
It's on. That's it. I got another one of these at 11.
Do you?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. All right.
All right.
See you guys.
See ya.